With a global economic downturn occurring, governments are in panic mode, resorting to the creation of never-before-employed strategies in order to keep this ship afloat. With a multitude of reasons to be cautious at this time, the facts continue to pile up on us. The mainstream media continuously projects propaganda claiming that employment is rising and the markets along with it. Yet it is clear and obvious that the world is decaying into formidable destruction. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to talk about a bunch of different things, one being Finland to give every citizen monthly paychecks. That's right, they're going with a different strategy here, and this is quite interesting to take a look at. Not the first place to do this, but let's get into it briefly today. Let's connect the dots, of course, beginning with the headline article here out of the Telegraph. Authorities in Finland are considering giving every citizen a tax-free payout of €800 each month. That's a fairly decent amount for each citizen, and let's read a bit about it. Under the proposals being drawn up, then this national basic income would replace all other benefit payments. So it's not just on top of anything else. This is actually replacing these other benefit payments and would be paid to all adults regardless of whether or not they receive any other income. So we'll have to see where this goes. I could see other countries doing this as well. It requires less management on the part of the government, and also they don't have to be responsible for pensions, which we know are going to be worthless. So all they need to do is print up some currency and have that be the way that they essentially are able to fund people. They don't want to be in the investment business. They can simply just pay people out. Unemployment in Finland is currently at record levels, and the basic income is intended to encourage people back to work. At present, many unemployed people will be worse off if they took on low-paid temporary jobs due to the loss of welfare payments. That's what's happening right now in the US and many other countries, because they can get a part-time job making a few bucks an hour, but then this whole welfare program sort of doesn't even out for them. So this is interesting to see where this all goes. Let's look at this. Norway is paying asylum seekers to return home as the refugee crisis continues. So obviously this puts a big burden on the government, and there's a lot of money to be basically expensed in this region, and many of the countries don't have it, especially at this time. Tens of thousands of kroner are being offered to each person who voluntarily leaves the country. They also have their flights paid for. So you get basically a flight back to your home country. You also get some cash, and this is an incentive to say, look, we can't house you here. We can't afford you for long term. So here's some cash. Please leave. It's an interesting way to deal with the situation. I've seen this happen actually in many other countries before. They don't want to have the, let's say, burden of these individuals coming in, and they simply don't have it. Their unemployment rates will perhaps suffer as a result because of the low wages that the immigrants are willing to accept. Really puts the others out of business. So this is one way of them dealing with the situation that's going on. But the real reason why are so many people fleeing areas like Syria, like Iraq? Nobody's even talking about that. They're only talking about this from other aspects. Well, think about it. Why all of a sudden, why right now, people leaving Syria and Iraq? Well, I heard of this thing called ISIS, but don't try and stay on that name, right? Because ISIS, which then became the Islamic State, which then became Caliphate, and last but not least, the most recent one as of this video, by the time you watch the video, it's probably already outdated, but they call it Daesh, I believe it's called. So, like I said, constantly changing the name in order to confuse everyone so they can't keep an eye on them. Get confused. Wait a second, Daesh, is this another group? No. Is that Al-Qaeda? No. Is that the Taliban? Nobody knows. Let's move on quickly here before I continue to rant. Global oil prices could fall as low as $20 a barrel next year as OPEC's decision to abandon a formal production quota exacerbates a bulging supply glut. I just wanted to mention one thing. Saudi Arabia wasn't playing ball. This is part of that. I've been covering this. And then you also have this consistent decision throughout all of the mainstream media that there is a supply glut. Now, that actually might be the case. The question I have is, why did oil go from over $100 a barrel down to, let's say, where we are at, $40 a barrel? It doesn't happen so significantly because of a supply glut. It does not occur like that. Historically, we do not see that occurring. This is speculation, financial speculation, allowing them to use any commodity and use it to their advantage. This is working out very well for them, and this is just one example of that. If you haven't seen it already, you absolutely need to see Mike Maloney talking about $10 a barrel oil. He actually gets a little bit upset actually in this conference in Russia, saying, you know, you guys are in the financial system here and you're going on things like Basel, the Basel agreements. He says Basel 1, 2, 3, it's all BS. And they laughed at him and they tried to get him off stage, in fact, and they really rushed him off. Very interesting to note, and definitely suggest that you watch it. One thing I just wanted to know from a personal side is that I was talking to the SVP of a major financial institution in Canada, and I told him a similar thing. I said, Basel? Well, that's a big bunch of BS. It doesn't matter. It's insignificant. And he laughed in my face. Of course, now who's laughing? Because we all know how fake this all is. Billionaire Jeff Green says technology will kill white-collar jobs. Hosts conference on inequality. That's right, the Billionaire hosting a conference on inequality. A little sad to talk about this. Anyway, he goes into saying that the speakers include former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, and you have a whole bunch of other big individuals talking about how they make too much money. Anyway, let's just get into it. What globalization did to blue-collar jobs and the working-class economy over the past 30 or 40 years, big data, artificial intelligence, and robotics will do to the white-collar economy, but at a much faster pace. And I totally agree with this. I've been bringing this information up, and consistently individuals will disagree. However, I'm staying with my point here that, look, robotics are amazing. Automation is amazing. It has so much power. We can sit back and relax while the machines do everything. The fact remains is that if we do those jobs, we earn the money. If the machine does the job, it doesn't need to earn money. And guess what? We're out of a job. That's just the way it is. China is laying the groundwork for a robot revolution by planning to automate the work currently done by millions of low-paid workers. So, huge news that we're talking about here, where the government's plan will be crucial, a broader effort to reform China's economy while also meeting an ambitious production goal laid out in its latest economic blueprint, which aims to double per capita income by 2020 from 2016 levels, with at least 6.5% annual growth. The success of this effort could in turn affect the vitality of the global economy. I don't understand how they're ever going to do this when they intend on replacing the jobs with automation. I don't see it working. I see that they can, in fact, increase production for the businesses. Yes, the businesses can do better, but the people are going to suffer because of this. Quite sad to see it all turning out this way. one of China's biggest security companies, has said it has been unable to contact its top 2 investment bankers after media reports said the pair might be under investigation. What happens here in China? What happened to all of these big bankers around the world? Many have committed suicide. They've been murdered. They've been basically found themselves dead in some way, shape, or form, some reason. And what's happening here in China? We've seen a lot of issues, particularly in China, with those in the finance industry. I'm constantly keeping a close eye on it, constantly bringing this out to you. Very interesting, to say the least. I'm not going to go into any detail on that. From my book, what I wanted to talk about was this: solutions. Inflation hurts the saver due to the depreciation of the value of the paper dollars we're forced to use. It is necessary to own assets that will appreciate in value, at the very least in nominal terms. So all I'm trying to say here for this is that, for example, your house you own might be worth more than it was 10 years ago. And for the most part, people would say, yes, that's true. But you pay more in taxes and in food and in energy. It's more expensive. So really, you're breaking even. But at the very least, if you owned that asset and all your other stuff is more expensive, you're sort of even at this point. Yes, your house is worth more, but your food is worth more as well. And this is the way that you need to think about investments. You need to put your cash, your paper assets, into something real in hopes that it will be at the very least nominally equivalent to what it was. That's all I want to say for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. Last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know you'll find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. Head over to Amazon, use the Look Inside feature to flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care.